We're here.
Okay, so audio generation for the talentless. I'm Frederika Edgington-Giordano, in case you didn't know. I think everyone has met me by now. So, just a quick introduction since other people do that too, just to tell you. All right, so I'm filling in for Taro Omiya again because he's gone off to Washington, D.C. He's the one who originally proposed this lesson, and he's basically, yeah, he wasn't able to do it. This came up rather suddenly, and I said, okay, I can try it. I've been using. I do not have any talent at making music or sound effects. Without a lot of help. So that's basically what I do when I create a game. My background is in physics, and I'm learning how to make games. I have programming experience from my physics background, but I've learned how to make games about 2 years ago, working on a little more than 2 years ago, and then making my own games starting about 1.5 years ago. My experience with music, actually producing it, was just singing groups, and I took keyboard lessons when I was a kid. So not a lot of experience there. And I can calculate sound waves more than analyze their effects on people. So that's more what my comfort level is. Give me numbers and equations. So.
Did you want to full screen the thing? Or?
Well, I'm probably going to be switching back and forth, so I don't know. Okay. Can everyone see it all right? Okay. All right, yeah, whatever makes sense, I guess. Okay, so when I try to think about the sounds I want in my games, now I make visual novels for the most part, so sound is a good way to give it some. I mean, you can't move around a lot in a visual novel, so sounds can be a really good indicator of something that's happening, if some movement is happening, and a lot of. So a good way to look for inspiration, if you're not very well versed in sound creation and you don't know quite what you want, you know what you want, the effect you want to create, but you don't know you don't know how to go about it, what kind of sound, what sound would communicate that idea. So a good place to look for inspiration is of course, games. I mean, games are the obvious answer, but also movies, TV. For example, the sound in movies and television is meant to, elicit an emotional response, to communicate something to you. And if it's done well, generally you don't notice it. You're not going to notice how the music suddenly swelled. You're going to notice how your emotions kind of went along with that. Increase in volume and increase in intensity. But so it does help though to, when you're listening to if you're thinking about a scene in a movie or in TV, just thinking about what was the sound that was happening when you were feeling that. It just the thought, since it's just a good guideline. Also considering cartoons, I was watching. In preparation for this, I was watching a video created for Wired where people who created sound engineers, were talking about different sound, iconic sounds in video games. I highly recommend it. It's on YouTube. If you look Wired, it's from 1972 or something to 1998, and then it goes from 1998 to the present day, and it's 2 parts. It's a really cool set of videos, and they mention cartoons. And if you think about cartoons, you got a lot of it's a lot more dramatic, and you can kind of think of it in terms of more game-like than your live action drama. And then of course there's real life. If you're trying to mimic something that's real, it's good to try to think about, when you're in a busy space, what does it sound like? When you're in a forest, what does it sound like? That kind of thing. If you're trying to, you know, make it sound like, you know, there's a fire going, or if there's, you know, a lot of activity, it's just a good idea to kind of just pay attention to the sounds that are going on around you. So the role of audio in games. So you're kind of, when you make a game, you're trying to make kind of a space. You're trying to define the space you're in, and to create a world. Now, sometimes that world is very simple and very digital, and you know, you probably want sounds that reflect that. I don't know if Tetris would be quite the same game if it had like chirping birds or something, rather than the sounds that it has. You want to create like a mood. Sometimes you want to create a mood. Sometimes, you know, less so. Player feedback. You know, the sound that you. One of the things I've noticed with Ludum Dare games, which are games that, you know, they're made in 72 hours or 48 hours. Sometimes you have no idea why you died, and a sound that tells you that moment you died, and just a pause. And like, yep, that's what killed you, and you can go back and go, okay, I can learn from that. You know, that kind of coming back to, you know, just to give you a heads up. There's also character dialogue, okay, and feedback. You know, you're gonna have, and you know, you do something and suddenly it makes a sound. It's more satisfying that way. I highly recommend checking out. You know, there's a few videos out there, but Taro discusses, actually we have a video on our site about making it juicy and making the game juicy and interactive. Another thing I've been thinking about is also accessibility. This is actually a link to a Kotaku article about a blind man who plays video games. He does it all through sound, like just listening. And I found that very fascinating, how, you know, just from the feedback of the sound, you know, he was able to figure out where he was. He was able to move through it. It was like Oddworld or something. So that was when he was demonstrating. So, all right. So yeah, inform the player where they are through music, ambient sounds, enemy sounds. You know, if the enemy suddenly shows up and you don't have no idea that it's coming, no warning that it's around the corner or, you know, off on the side, it's not very fair. So telling them, you know, hey, there's something coming and it's closing in. Supplies sometimes. There was one game I was playing where you're basically running around in a forest trying to avoid dinosaurs. The object is to try to kill dinosaurs. I never managed it. It wasn't a very well balanced game. But you'd be in this forest and suddenly you hear this very digital kind of beeping sound, and it would tell you, okay, there's a cache of supplies nearby that you can. So that kind of feedback, or when you wouldn't necessarily be able to find something, you know, helping to locate. Location, stage-specific sound. So telling the player, okay, now you're in a fire, you know, a lava level, or, you know, there'll be sounds associated with that. I know this is very basic, but just to kind of give you something to think about. And game feedback, your pickups, you know, your little coin sounds, and you know, ding, and dissonant sounds for when bad things happen, you know, sharp. Like, you know, when Mario dies, it's like, sorry. and you know he died, you know. And then there's, you know, when he gains health and sort of loses health and that kind of thing. And movement. Are you walking around on grass? Are you walking around on stone? Are you, you know, riding Yoshi? Because, you know, if you're in Super Mario World, you jump on Yoshi, suddenly the sound changes. Yeah, my experience with games is kind of sporadic. I'll admit it. And transitions, you know, changes in levels, changes from, you know, going through a door, you know, that kind of thing. So okay, enough about, like, you know, why you might want to have sound and things to think about with sound. Let's get back right into content. So, okay, first things first. All right, so BFXR, so let's go with digital sound effects here. Let's see, got this up here. And so this is a good one to use, especially if you don't want to play around with sounds too much and you don't really have a lot of experience like working with what all these things, the attack and the sustain time and the punch and all this other stuff and what triangle wave and sine. If you don't really want to deal with that, you can just go, well, I need a pickup sound. There you go. Now you have your coin sound. Or you have a laser sound. And if you actually want, you didn't like that one maybe, you get a little clippier one. You can also play around and mix them in here. So if you have your, and just to mess with it, you can also kind of, in case you wanted to do that, and that was the sound you wanted to create. I don't know, that's a weird sound, but anyway. But if you wanted to like layer, like, let's see, pick up coin, and make it really loud. That would be kind of annoying though, as you could probably. All right, I'll stop doing that. So you can kind of see how this can work. I wouldn't recommend, unless you know what you're doing, I wouldn't recommend messing with these because I found that when I messed around with it too much, actually the sounds started sounding very murky and they kind of all sound like, you know, kind of like your computer is blowing your raspberries, just to put it nicely. It doesn't really, so if you know exactly if you mess with it too much, you're probably not going to see much going on. But if you do, if you want to increase the attack time, which is sort of, then you can kind of try that out. But then if you decide, oh wait, you know what, I was wrong about that, I don't want, there's a revert synth. You can revert it back to its original and go back to the way it was. And you can mess around with this different, so it's kind of fun to play around with it, but if you just want a sound effect, you can just create one and kind of mess with it a little bit. And if you have a few different sounds, you can kind of combine them and make it into something. And then you can export it. So that's, I don't know, is everyone pretty much familiar with the XFR by now? Or? Okay. So, any questions? I don't tend to use a lot of very digital sound effects, but I have played with this a bit for some of the games I've made. All right, so we'll move on to the next thing. Lab Chirp. This is actually one Taro suggested I check out. It's actually a, this is something you download, and you can, if you know what you're doing, you can probably do some pretty cool stuff. There's different channels, so you can kind of layer different sounds. You can kind of go with, we got the length here, and if you notice, this says like 1 second. Probably if you're just starting out and just trying to figure this stuff out, there's the randomizer. And it's randomized, so you have all these sets. How many channels? Yeah, let's try 2. Length, delay, all this good stuff. Randomize. That was kind of neat. Kind of sci-fi-ish. So, yeah, so it's kind of a similar idea, but you can like layer them a bit more and also decide how long they're going to be a little more. So, and this one is available, it's actually on an itch.io page, but if you look up Lab Chirp, I think there's also another website. This is free, by the way. Everything I'm bringing up here today is free. So, just so you know. I tend to work with free resources as much as possible. All right. Anyone want me to try anything with this? Or anyone, like, got any questions? A delay? What does that do? Alright, I'm just curious what that does. Okay, kind of like, okay, anyway, I don't want to bore you guys by just messing with this, but yeah, you can also mess with like the frequency, so you can make it even lower. Or really high pitched. Yeah. And then mess with volume, and frequency modulation. It's really just anyway. So yeah, these could be fun to just sort of play with. Didn't have a lot of time to play with them before, but in amplitude. Anyway, all right. So I guess I can move on from that. So that's Lab Chirp. Audacity, actually, which is a audio editing program. Actually, you can create some sounds on it too. I also, if you have sounds that you want to, like, say you have, like in my case, I was actually making a game where there was an earthquake happening. Some of you may remember A Smaller World for The Last of Them Dare, and I actually, I had two different earthquake sounds, and one of them had a good rumble thing that I liked, and the other one had more of like a something shaking. So I just I used Audacity and kind of layered them together and kind of fit them together until they made a sound that I liked, more than the either one separately. All right. So any questions about that? About these? Okay. So, all right.
So any questions from the Twitch chat?
Oh yeah. Oh, you're the only one on there? Oh, okay. We're not very popular today.
Well,
it's a nice sunny day, so.
Yeah, it is the longest day of the year.
That's true. Mm-hmm. That is true. All right. So I'll get on. So I'm going to move on to something I tend to. So sound effects created by others. So, let's see. So a site I tend to use very much is Freesound. Freesound, let's see, can I actually log in? Maybe I can show you some of the stuff. Now this one's really cool. I don't know if, let's see. No, I can't remember my password. Maybe that's not my password, my username. Let me just see. Let me try again. Nope. All right, it's not really necessary other than to show you all the sounds I've downloaded. Freesound's really, you can't download sounds unless you're a member. You log in. It's free. You don't have to actually pay anything. You just, I think they're trying to track, who's downloading what, because if you might notice now, here, for example, this sound that somebody has, uploaded, people basically create their own sounds and then they upload them. So you see, modular samples and Subtopia Limburg, whatever. Felix Bloom, there's one. Full Boy Media. So people create their own sounds and then they put them out into the world through Freesound. So if anyone's looking for a sound effect, you could actually tend to find it here, and then if it's too long or it doesn't, there's only one 3-second clip that you really want, you can edit it down in Audacity. Anyone looking for a sound effect or curious if the sound effect exists on here?
Is there like a disintegration?
Disintegration?
Like metal erosion? I don't know how to describe it. I guess metal erosion.
Metal erosion? Or?
like
Yours
note.
doesn't really have a sound. It's too long
Yeah.
of a process.
Yeah.
If you want metal from, that's a sound.
It's like melting or something.
Metal melting. Huh. Well, probably gets snow melts on a metal roof. So these are like more like sounds that people have recorded than so.
Metal hitting metal is a sound.
What?
Metal hitting metal like in an accident shop.
Oh yeah, sure. We can try. We can try metal. Yeah, let's just try metal. Let's see what happens. Okay. Okay. Metal hit with metal bar. There we go. You know, play that a few times at different pitches. You know, maybe that would work. Tapping metal. Actually, you can just play it in here. Metal whining and screeching.
That looks loud.
It probably is. Pan pot. Okay. Okay. So metal falling.
It's a creepy sound.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good sound for like for creepy. So these are actually, so this sound is, so this, you see there's a 0 here. This sound is public domain. And this sound is licensed under the Creative Commons Attribution License. So Metal Falling Screws was Juan Lopez 08 here. So, yeah, if you have an account, it will keep track of what sounds you've downloaded, so that you can find, and the names of the files are really helpful. They'll have like the name of the file and the username and everything. It's kind of long, but it's very good for keeping that kind of continuity. You can track, you know, when you're at the last minute, when you're thinking, oh wow, I probably should start, you know, writing out my credits. This site really helps you out when you're doing that. So screws, okay. So there you go. Pot, oh yeah, most of these I think were, okay, I didn't do rubbing metal, that's okay. Oh, this is non-commercial. Okay, so tapping metal, yeah, anyway, Psycho Pancake made tapping metal. Just to give, you know, credit where credit is due. I try to credit people and credit the sources. One, it helps to, it's, you know, it's a good thing to do to credit someone, even if they never find out that you used their sound. It helps other people find, you know, assets and figure out, you know, oh, if they happen to have a sound, if you happen to be using a sound that sounds pretty close to what they need for their game or project, it's helpful. It's just a good community thing to do. So, any other requests before we move on? Also, you can do searches if you search advanced search options. So you can, let's see. I thought you could pick, like, it used to be able to pick what kind of, oh, you can actually, it breaks down what kind. So if you just want the ones that are Creative Commons 0, which is a public domain, and you don't want to deal with, like, you know, giving anyone any kind of credit for it because you know you're in a rush, then you can click on that tag and you're good. Or that license, it's sorted that way. Or sometimes, or you know, and maybe you want to be able to, you know, use something that you don't have to worry about it being non-commercial. Maybe you want to use it for something you're trying to sell, or using it for something to demo something you want to sell. You can use that to, like, eliminate the sound effects that would give you some kind of issue with that. So, all right. If no, there are no other questions about that. Let's see what else we have. Oh, and Sound Bible. That one's not, I haven't used quite as much, but it's a similar idea. Let's see. But it's kind of a mix of sounds people have created. If you want like a ring, I needed like a text noise for one of the games I created, so I looked in here. Another thing to keep in mind is people do tend to, not in every case, but some of the users actually do go into a fair amount of detail about how they, or some detail about what tools they use to record sound, or what they use to create it. So you can kind of find out. So this one, they used a Tascam portable recorder, recorded indoors, that kind of thing. And that way, you know, if you wanted to try making your own sounds, you can kind of see how other people did it, what they used, where, what sounds good on your end when you're looking at it. Okay, so that's the thing to keep in mind with free sound. Okay, moving on to music. So so everyone, I'm sure by now, has heard something created by Kevin MacLeod. Everyone know this guy? Yeah. Yeah. So he's pretty well known at this point. I have no idea. I could walk right by the guy and not know him, but you know, I recognize his music now. Which has there's a pro and con to that. Yes, you can, the search for here is, for looking through here, they've got quite a variety of music that you can pick from, and you can like, let's see, if you want to do like particular genres, if you have particular feels in mind, you can pick action and aggressive. You can go aggressive and bouncy, and you will have a selection of music that may or may not fit what you want, depending on what you're looking for. But it is a somewhat limited selection, and there is always the danger of somebody else somebody who's playing your game may be familiar with the sound that's being played, and they might already have associations. So that can be kind of tricky, because you don't want them thinking about someone else's game when they're playing yours, or someone else's YouTube video when they're playing your game. It's just how. So that can have some drawbacks there. I have used a few of these to get the effect I want for my games. Okay. So, okay. Oh, yes?
Do free sounds and Soundable have license restrictions, or is there any free use?
Oh, well, that's okay. So free sound. Let's see. This is fast. So these are free sound. Okay, Sound Bible is free sound clips for download. They offer free and royalty-free sound effects. So I don't use them quite as much. So they have. I mean, you probably, if you click on a sound, it will tell you what kind of license it has. In this instance. In free sounds, there are free to use. So Creative Commons 0, i.e., it's equivalent to public domain. It's been released. The user has the creator has said, you know what? I'm just putting this out there. I'm not going to expect people to either give me credit or pay me or whatever. I'm not putting any controls on it. And you can generally tell with this little symbol here. So that's what the 0 means. This little person here, which might be hard to see in the screen, I'll maybe zoom in a little bit so people can see. So if you look here, so this is the license under Creative Commons Attribution. So if you click on that, if you click on this, I think usually they'll tell you about the attribution. No, let me just actually, that's not quite what I was going for. So attribution, usually you have to say, you know, where you got it, how you know, who created it. You don't have to give credit to the, you have to give credit to the creator. If you've altered it, you should mention that. That's really best practices there. And just, and that, so that's, it's free to use, but you should be crediting the creator since they have licensed it in this way. The one with the 0, so if you really wanted, if you liked this sound and you used it, this means, you know, you don't have to do anything. You just use the sound. I personally will attribute the creator just because I prefer to do it. It just feels better for me in my mind to do it. Just in case I make a mistake too, I just sort of assume I'm going to attribute it to everyone. And this one is a case where it's non-commercial, so they don't want you selling anything. If you're making a free game, this is fine. But the minute you are no longer, if you're, you know, just creating something for a game jam, it should be fine. You know, give attribution, explain what you did to this, to it, just like with the little person here. Explain, you know, any changes you made in your credits, but you want to make sure that if you get it to the point where you're going to sell it, you're going to have to do something else for the sounds, for that particular sound effect. Either make your own, get someone to do it for you, find one of the ones that's public domain. I hope that answered the question sufficiently.
Jesus. I see. Cool. Thanks.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So I went on for a little longer than necessary, but oh wait. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Free Music Archive. I haven't actually used this one too much, so I'm realizing that now but this is a similar idea. There's like free music, and I don't know, okay. So this is like an archived song. I guess these must be like old enough. Some of these might be old enough that, you know, the copyright has lapsed. Don't know what kind of, let's see. Old time historic. I guess that's what I get when I go old time historic. Classical. So another, this is another place. Yeah, pay attention to what's World of Ruin. That sounds chipper. Anyway, so that's another source. Yeah, obviously double check on licenses and stuff. All right, what else do I have? So like I said, there are pros and cons to using someone's freely available music. Because obviously you don't want to, like, if somebody had some kind of, you know, offbeat thing, you know, or did some kind of lyric dissonance thing where, you know, they had a really chipper music and they, you know, had a particular, like, memorable segment with it, and then you use the same chipper music, it's going to kind of, you know, whatever memorable thing someone else created is going to be kind of intruding on your creation. So, what do you do? Well, there are a few different things to do. There's beatbox. So, going over here. So beatbox, this is kind of fun. I was playing with this last night. you create music. Now, I'm probably going to wake everybody up. So you can kind of so as you can see, there's this purple bit here. I'm going to pause it because that's going to be really annoying. But let's see. So there's this purple bit here. This is the duration of the song. So if you notice, there are these ones, and then one of the ones is highlighted. Now, if I was to go 2, suddenly it's all blank. But if I click on the ones, so this is like a chunk of music that you can create, and you can get pretty complicated. You got a lot of space here to like mess around and play around with the. So if I was just gonna mess around here, and you can just sort of see what happens. And now it's gonna go completely silent because the 2 doesn't have anything in it. And then you can have something down here in, like, I don't know. And I apologize if this is somehow grating to someone who actually knows music. So you can see the 1 and the 1 here are sort of harmonizing. So you can have, and these are different, these correspond to different sounds. So different, tones here. So this could be, just to mess with it. Okay, you know what? Actually, let's try messing with it here. I'm gonna put it 2. Let's see, what did I do here? Did this. So maybe if I just do this, same thing here. And I'm just messing with this. Anyway, it goes on like that. So if I wanted to just loop on these 3 here, then I could do that. So I did a very repetitive little bit there, but yeah, you can kind of, and if you had like a song in mind, you could, set it up. And you can make it as long as you like. It basically loops and it plays it. So you can sort of, in real time see, oh, hey, what if I do this? So if you try messing with, you can try playing around with seeing, what happens when you change a note, and it will affect, all the ones will be affected. So if I remove this one, it keeps doing that. Okay, so if I remove this one and you go over here, all the ones have that note missing. So you basically are creating, you can have, like, I don't know, you can have up to, it's like 0, 1, 2, okay, 0 is like nothing, and 1 through 8 possibilities, including, and then in addition, you can have nothing at all. And each of these are different. So this would be like percussion. So if you wanted to just throw in a drum or something. Okay, that sounded weird, but anyway, you get the idea. And it's just, all I'm doing is like, I'm clicking and dragging and like. So anyway, you get the idea. And if anyone, if you have any knowledge of music and if you can like listen to something and like kind of hear that it sounds okay, it'll. And I'm right-clicking to get rid of them. That's why the menu keeps popping up. So, So it's kind of similar if you're familiar with the, was it Bosca Kale, or so. No, I did that. So quick introduction. It's a similar idea. You can have multiple layers. Yes, I'm gonna be kind of, and it loops. Getting a bit annoying. So a similar idea. So if you know how to, you know, if you just, all you have to do is like click on this, and you can get a thing, and you can just sort of try to make a pattern, see what it sounds like, and you can mess with it. Yeah, this one unfortunately it's broken up a little bit more. So you get the idea, I think. All right. So, and there are other things, similar things out there, and these two are free, so you can use them. All right, so let's talk about procedurally generated music. This is kind of fun, actually. So let's see. Now I've got two of them up here. One of them I've actually used for a game. That's Juke Deck. Juke Deck's actually one that I've used for a game. And you can just use it. It's fine as long as you say that where you got it from. So if you use something from Juke Deck that you create, well, you have it create for you. You just have to say made with Juke Deck, and you're fine. And also you can use it for a game you're going to sell, assuming that you're not like a major commercial, like if you have a lot of employees or something. If you're an indie game developer, you're fine. But if you got more employees than that, you know, a lot of employees, they kind of frown on you, you know, not paying for it. Excuse me. And Wolfram Tones, it's non-commercial only. So this would be good for a game jam or a game you're just making for fun. But it would probably not be a good idea. It would not be a good idea to try to sell a game with this. And these other two Taro sent me, which they seem to be iOS only. Are you familiar with these two? Automata and Circuli? No? Okay. Okay, so let's make some music. All right, so it already has tracks that I think people have created, but if you want to, you know, create, let's see, my account. Oh, wait, what am I doing? No, that's not what I want. I want to make something. Oh, is it because I haven't? In touch. Wait, no, that's not what I want. Sorry, just give me a moment. Usually there's a little button that says make. Oh. Just a second. Actually, no. All right, just a second. It did. Very. Can I just, can I pause it for a sec, or not pause, but just a sec? I think I need to start creating that account. Great. Okay, just a sec. I just need to fill this information in. So I'd like us to be able to try, I can't remember my password for my other account. So naturally. So sorry, just a second while I do this. Please confirm your email. Okay. All right.
Yeah, just click on lesson item.
Oh, lesson 9? Okay, thanks. Sorry. All right. Let me just try. Just confirmed my account, so it should allow me to make stuff. Create a track here. Okay, maybe it was right here and I didn't see it before. Okay, create a track. All right. So, what are we in the mood for? Music-wise. Piano, folk, rock, ambient, cinematic.
What does corporate mean?
I haven't actually tried that one. Sure, let's do a easy listening and tech. Which one?
Tech.
Tech. All right. So what duration do we want? Okay. And we want, like, I guess, sort of a, you know,
Builds up.
Build up, yeah. Let's do a build up right there, about halfway there. Okay, let's create our corporate tech music.
Jay says corporate for the win. Jay is on Twitch. He says corporate for the win.
Yeah. All right. So as you can see, it's cooking up in there. Corporate tech, and pretty soon it'll actually kind of generate a name for the track as well. It's usually something fairly innocuous sounding and very generic, but all right, let's listen to our corporate
Ephemeral protest.
Ephemeral, yeah, I guess so. We can download it if you want.
Upload it to Discord.
I'm sure that's yeah. I've technically have a login now, so I can well, yeah. I have another login. I've used this before. Let me see. What did I use before? When I made for planetary data. I actually used. Let's see. I think I went with like ambient and like sparse or something like that. Maybe no, not meditative. But I wanted something kind of planetarium sounding. I thought that would be kind of fun. But yeah, so you can kind of, I mean, you have somewhat limited choices here. Orchestrated, solo, tempo, exact BPM, okay. Beats per minute, okay. So this one's, you know, it's simpler than the other one I'm going to show you, but it, you know, it's less, there are less strings attached to this one. So, all right, now the other one, Wolfram tones. This one you can't, they explicitly state in the licensing, the content licensing, that you can't sell anything with the music in it. But there are a lot of settings. I really hadn't gotten much of a chance to play with it, but there's a lot of stuff you can play around with here. So you can decide. So I guess next up, who wants to what do we want to do as a committee? What kind of music do we want to create for this one? Any takers here?
Experimental.
Experimental? Okay. All right, experimental. And we've got all this. So you can choose a program that will create it. So you also pick instruments. I don't know what else you might want.
What are the instruments?
So we have grand piano, electronic, bright piano, honky-tonk piano, electric piano, electric piano 1 and 2, sorry, harpsichord, clavi, celesta, harp, tinkle bell, vibraphone, marimba, xylophone, woodblock, tubular bells, drawbar organ, percussive organ, rock organ, I guess, church organ, reed organ, harmonica, or accordion. These are not in alphabetical. Tango accordion, guitar, nylon, steel, jazz, clean, muted, overdriven, distortion, harmonics, and acoustic bass. Electric bass, finger pick and fretless. So yeah, it goes on for a while. We can also have voice, oohs and ahs.
Let's throw a couple of those in.
Okay, let's have a voice, oohs and ahs. And I don't know. Let's just. Now, if I knew more about music, I'd probably recognize this, but I don't know. Let's go polyphonic, sure. And let's get some oohs in there. We have our ahs. Let's see, oohs. Any of these sound good to you? I don't know. Descending? Moving. Let's do it. Okay, percussion, rock. There's a lot of different ones.
Rock ballad.
Rock ballad? Rock ballad 1 or 2? Or let me see, are there more? No, it's just the 1 or 2.
There's still one.
Okay. Okay. Lydian sharp 2 hex I. This tells you what kind of scale, which notes they'll pick. You'll notice that these are,
Are these randomly generated, or is this like a preset?
So this music is randomly generated. These are the sets, the presets to create it. So this is what it'll use to create the music. These are all particular, different cultures have used different scales. So I have no idea. I'll leave it the way it is. Do we have any thoughts on tempo or duration? 15 seconds. I think I want to last a little longer than that. Maybe 30 seconds. There we go. Okay. Are we good? Any other puts here? Okay. Let me just. Okay, I guess that's what happens. Okay, it stopped playing.
That was painful.
Yes. All right. Yeah, that was a bit. I think we might be able to. We could try other options too, and just see what happens. So if we just go with classical, and just go with something more, And all of these are supposed to be like completely unique. You can actually, the generated music, every time you generate some of the music, depending on whether or not, if you want to call it music, in some of the cases, as the case may be, you have this particular string is basically the identifier that tells you, okay, this thing you generated, if you wanted to find it again, if it's something you want to find again, it is in fact, you can just use this link to find it again. Because the whole purpose was to create something that, would be completely unique each time. So that's that. Are there any questions about the stuff I've covered so far? Any questions in the chat?
Well, Jason was asking, is there be any option? But I think he answered that answer.
Oh, he did? Which?
That he's saying move to something else.
Oh. Okay. There's a what option?
Theremin?
Theremin. Oh. Oh, I don't know if I saw that in there. It's not alphabetical, so it's kind of hard. There should be, I think. There's a lot of, let's see, isn't it? Let's see, I don't, not seeing it. But yeah, you can check it out, tones.wolfram.com.
Glockenspiel.
Glockenspiel, yeah. Recording sitar. Yeah. I'm not seeing Okay, so that's pretty much what I have. I just like last notes. So just a few things to consider when you're trying to create sounds and combine them in your games, I guess. You want to separate them by tone. So you don't want your sound effects and your music like being too close together. You don't want your music to sound like your sound effect. You don't want it to sound like you got to pick up because your music went to that pitch or whatever. So you want your pitches to be different. You want to keep in track of like the sound volume. You don't want to have your music really, really loud and your sound effects really, really soft for similar reasons. You can't tell what's happening. You don't want to shift from one part where the music's really soft unless you really want to startle the player, and then it goes really, really loud. You want to keep things on a sort of even kind of level of volume. Like I said before, don't mess with generated sounds too much unless you know what you're doing, because it's you're likely. You probably don't want to mess with sounds too much unless you know what you're in general, unless you know what you're doing. Similar, also, you want your sound quality to natural versus digital, unless you're going for a contrast. So you probably want to keep the same kind of theme. You don't want your sound effects to sound all your sound effects sounds the same, but you don't want them to sound out of place either. You don't want to have your pickup sound like it comes from a completely different game. Or your death thing, you want it to kind of sound like it fits. And if possible, vary the tone of frequently used sounds. Always a good thing. Otherwise, if you're try to vary what kind of sounds you use for something, rather than using the same exact sound effect. Because if you get a lot of pickups, you don't want or you're running into a lot of enemies, you don't want the sounds to be exactly the same. Remember there's one game Patrick had where there was elephants that were elephant sounds, and it just went on for so long. Remember that one? Dominion. I'm talking about Dominion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it would just go, and it was like the same exact sound every single time.
Truly devastating combination of the game, though.
Yeah. It was really irritating to listen to. Even I wasn't even playing the game. I was just listening to it from another room. So, and yeah, so that's what I have to, that's pretty much what I got. Are there any questions? Any other questions? Okay.
Questions, but I wanted to mention a random music generator I discovered many years ago.
Oh.
Ever played a mobile game by side of A Ride Through the Mountains?
No, I haven't.
In it, the guy uses a random music generator.
Oh.
You make notes by tapping on the grid.
Oh, cool.
Every time they hit, they change direction.
Oh, neat.
So it's it keeps changing itself over and over.
Oh, cool.
The problem is it's a very limited program. It's fun to play with, but there's no export feature.
Oh, okay.
Since it's a program that always has to be run. And I haven't looked too much further into like incorporating like the program into a game or anything like that.
Huh.
But it's called Automata.
Actually, I think that was on my list of things I had not checked out. It looks.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Automata. Okay, so that's that one. Is that for iPad or?
It's for iPad. I think it's even usable for like the phone.
Okay, I couldn't find too much information about it.
Yeah. You might be able to try it on this computer because this is a touch screen. I don't know if it'll have a web version at all.
No, probably not. No. Wait, why?
Oh, it's gone. Yeah, open Firefox.
Yeah, no. Yeah, okay, that's it. There it is, yeah. And I don't know.
It is just for iOS.
That was the impression I got,
Can
but
you click on it already, or?
I didn't try. What? Oh. Hey, can I play it then? Or how do I get it to go the other direction?
Keep clicking on the same spot.
Oh, it'll turn. Okay.
So I thought it was a fun, clever way. There's different skills you can choose. And the red dot indicates to
It's a fun one, yeah. So.
Right.
Cool.
This is a really fun game, and
Yeah.
you wouldn't. It sets the mood so well that you wouldn't even tell that it was procedurally generated.
Yeah, that is a good one.
It adds just
I hadn't looked at it too closely. I didn't realize I could mess with this part. I'm admittedly, I'm unfortunately very short for time most of the time. Thanks for bringing that up then. I can.
Yeah, and you run through his FAQ, and he says that he's working on an export feature, but I'm pretty sure it said the same thing 6 years ago when I first discovered it. So,
that's going to be unfortunate, yeah.
But it would take a little bit of, I don't know, it is programming, so there might be a way of incorporating the actual program into a game.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. It's a cute. It is fun to play with too. Cool. Thanks for bringing that up. All right. Any other questions? No. No question. Oh, sorry. Did you have a question?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's audio generation for the talentless. Provided by me, a very talentless audio generator, right? Thank you for listening. I hope people got something out of it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right. Cool.
Shall we use stop stream?
Yep, sounds good.